Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and we are here today with a full house of different individuals here representing our Armed Forces Association Club here on campus. We are here with the president of the Nightly News Media Club, Parker Rose. Parker, it's such a pleasure to have you back on the podcast.
It's great to be here, Professor Miller.
And, of course, you are also part of the Armed Forces Association as you are active duty reserves. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, just for some of our listeners, can you just explain what goes into being in the reserves?
So, being in the National Guard or reserves, your military duty is different than active duty. Active duty, you do Monday through Friday typically, but when you're in military duty on the reserve side, you are considered a weekend warrior. We call each other.
That would definitely be true. Weekend warrior, that's for sure.
And some days our drills could vary from Fridays to Sundays, Saturdays and Sundays, and then one time a year on our schedule we do a annual training, which is a two week training.
Now, where do you go for your training?
It varies on your unit, but my unit, we go to the Gap.
Okay, so it's not too far for you. Well, I want to preface by saying, and to each and every one of you, I'll say thank you so much for your service. And my sort of background with this is my grandfather served in the Korean War and in the Air Force, so I've always been a longtime supporter. I also work outside of Central Penn. I helped start a business that is very focused on military. We've done a lot of military charities, and a very good friend of mine has an active duty brother, an active duty brother-in-law, and his dad was a veteran as well. So we always try to see what we can do for the veterans. We're also being joined by Dan Guerrisi. Dan, you're the advisor of the Armed Forces Association.
That is correct. I am the advisor for the Armed Forces Association. I've been working with them for probably close to 4 years now and organizing all the events and working kind of the behind the scenes for the whole club and making sure it runs smoothly.
Now, what affiliation do you have with the Armed Forces?
So believe it or not, I am actually not a veteran. I was working with the VA, and Sam and Ben approached me about helping out with the club, and I kind of just took it and ran. And, I have a lot of veterans in my family. Both my grandfathers were veterans of World War II, so helping veterans is something I'm very passionate about. And I just kind of, I'm doing whatever I can to help out the veterans and veteran students and faculty and staff that are veterans.
Now, this may be obvious, but what are some of the maybe different challenges that veteran students may have that maybe a traditional college student may not?
So that's a very good question. A lot of our veteran students, especially the ones that aren't in active duty, they're parents, they have families, they have jobs, they have, a life outside of Central Penn that some of the traditional students may not have. And that proposes a lot of different challenges that they have to work through. Time management's a big one.
I think time management's a big one for all of us.
Definitely, 100%. But, when you're juggling, feeding your kids, paying your bills, going to work full time and taking, 6 credits on top of that, it's a lot, and it can be overwhelming. So that's definitely a challenge veterans have. Some of them have, medical conditions that they're dealing with through the VA, and, that can interfere with those studies. So there's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it.
And certainly, as your piece in the advising center, do you work with our veteran students as well?
So I work with the majority of them, but they're kind of split up between Caitlin and Michelle and myself. But if they have any veteran questions, they kind of just steer them over to me, and I kind of work with them in the VA.
And I have to tell you, I am extremely sympathetic of you and your job, because I can only imagine. I have a crazy time just trying to keep my 50 students that I have in my department under control. I don't know how in the world you guys manage the hundreds and hundreds of students each of you have. So I just want you to know that I am certainly appreciative of what you do for our students, certainly our veteran students, and certainly the fact that you're involved with the club too, I think is really cool.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, it can be challenging, but it's also very rewarding, and that's why we do it. So
hey, we wouldn't be here if our jobs weren't rewarding. That's for sure.
That is very true.
Well, we have a newcomer here to the podcast. Here with Travis Kauffman. Travis, you are the vice president of the Armed Forces Association. So first of all, what is your background with the military, and how did you get involved with the club?
So my background with the military, I've been in the Army Reserves for probably about 14 years now, straight out of high school. 3 deployments under my belt. I actually work as a dual status military technician, so I have to stay in the reserves to have my civilian job, and that's working up at Indiantown Gap. We facilitate training for units that come through. We store and maintain equipment to keep readiness going. My maternal grandfather was actually a mess sergeant in the Army, and my paternal grandfather was a Marine. So I got some familial ties to the military, and obviously me being in myself. As far as how I got started with the organization, Dan approached me one day. Just, hey, here's AFA, here's what it's about. Do you want in? Yeah, absolutely. I'll do everything I can to get back, in a close-knit community with, some veterans of all branches and help give and assist those that need it.
Now, Travis, are you specifically an online student, or do you take evening classes? Obviously, with your day job, it's probably tougher for you to be here on campus.
I'm taking 2 online, and then on Wednesdays, I do a night class.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, it's a time commitment. It works out. The flexibility of the school and online really helps, and that night class is stop on in on my way home from work every day, and couldn't line up better.
I think the reason that I asked that question is because I think a lot of times, and I actually speak to a lot of people about this, a lot of times online or maybe even evening students may feel like the clubs here on campus aren't necessarily for them. I've literally had people say that. That couldn't be further from the truth. I do everything I possibly can. And now that because of the pandemic and Zoom and Teams and things like that, now it's even a little bit easier to try to get some of our off-campus students involved. Do you find that that's difficult for you to be a part of the club with you being mainly online and with one on-ground class?
I mean, the advisors do a lot of the work. We show up, we help, we give our input. No, they do a great job as far as I've seen. This is my first term with them. There's a lot of time management, though, that goes into it. It's challenging. It is. But, like I said, without good club advisors, it would be a lot more difficult. And I never saw a club being something I would get involved in. Just I want to go to school, do it, go home, do my homework, hang out with my kids. But yeah, challenging. Didn't think it would be for me at first, but I'm glad I did start to get involved with it.
And I'm sure the club is happy to have you as well, certainly now in a leadership role. And that's something that, you could put on a resume too. Maybe in your particular case, it might not be as impactful as others, but still it shows that leadership quality. Now, certainly being in the military in and of itself shows that leadership quality, but then it also shows that in terms of the philanthropic initiatives that the AFA is really known for, I think that that's a big piece of that. Well, one of the things that I wanted to start off our conversation about, obviously today we're going to be talking about you got a bunch going on here in the fall term, and I appreciate everyone's time today. But I wanted to start off with the club fair. Dan, first of all, this back to class blast was pretty cool. It was very interesting, and I was happy to see that, we had a nice day, but it was also nice because we had food, and that was thanks to the AFA. So do you mind just sharing with us how you got coerced into cooking food for everybody here on campus?
Yes, so that's a good question. So Sam Morgan, who's also a club advisor of the AFA club, approached me and asked if he thought it would be a good idea if we made food, because we have funds that we need to use up, and we knew that Adrian wanted food at the event. So I approached Adrian, and she said, yeah, she's on board with that. So we went out, got a bunch of burgers and hot dogs, and we're like, we're just going to, eat the cost and give it away for free because we want students to attend the event, and we thought it was a great event. And like you said, it was a beautiful day, and other than the grill partially catching on fire, it was very successful. So
one thing that I've done over the past couple of club fairs / back to class blasts is I do a little scavenger hunt, and I think I had 35 students from across my 2 classes that I excused for the day come, and I always make sure that I have everybody check in with your table. That's one of the clubs that's on my scavenger hunt. In case you haven't had my class yet and you have it in the future, always keep an eye out. Did you have a lot of people from my class and others come up and start asking you about your organization?
So that's a good question, too. Yes, we did have a lot. That was definitely a big number of the students that came up. They had your scavenger hunt papers, and, they were curious about the club, who we were, what we do. And, I thought that was a great idea by you to have your students do that. And, there was a lot of students there, but, the majority of them, not the majority, but most of them were from your class. So, yeah. That was a great motivator for them to go to that event.
One of the things, and, when I used to do this, I would just say, okay, check in with me, sign in, walk around. This way, they're accountable for actually walking around and speaking with people, because the whole point is to get introduced, especially for new students on campus, is to get introduced to the clubs. And sort of across the board, I'd ask them after that to kind of follow up with a couple questions that I ask. And I asked them for, one of the questions was, what were 3 things that you learned about the college? And almost every single one of them put that they were so surprised how many clubs that we had. And in fact, I actually met, I think, 2 or 3 people from those 2 classes alone who were military. And I don't want to call them out here on the podcast, but they're definitely interested in the club. Sometimes first-term students, it takes them a little while to get their bearings, and usually maybe by the end of the first term, beginning of the second term is really when a lot of them start joining. So I hope, if nothing else, that opportunity got you a couple of new members. So thank you so much for doing that. It was wonderful. We just appreciate it. And I don't know if we'll be able to do something like that in the wintertime, but you never know.
Yeah, no, and I think it's awesome that you do that. And I know research has shown that, club involvement and things like that is a great retention tool for students. So getting them involved in clubs right away from the beginning is awesome. And, I think it's awesome that you did that scavenger hunt. Exhibit
A, to my left, Parker Rose, is a wonderful opportunity to talk about this. So obviously this podcast is about the AFA, and I do want to talk about that. But in a general sense, what benefits, now that you're getting close to being out of here, Parker, do you see from having the experience in the variety of different clubs that you've gotten and been a part of?
Well, you learn, like every club I'm involved in, you learn different things about you. So I'll start with AFA. AFA helps you appreciate more of the veterans who served. Like me being in the military, it teaches you more how you appreciate the people who served once before you, and you're carrying on the tradition for them that they made the sacrifice. Now you're carrying on that tray. And also learning traits and raising money for good causes. Nightly News taught me how to write better. When I graduated high school, I was not the best writer. I wasn't good at writing. Nightly News taught me how to get confidence in writing. The drama club, it taught me to be myself. Like, don't be afraid to be yourself and get involved in acting and all. So a lot of students don't see that for the first couple turns, but I tell students that are going to be listening to the podcast when it comes up, when you get involved, you will learn so much about yourself, and that each club has a purpose and a mission to succeed.
And I think that's wonderful, and I appreciate your discussion. Well, I want to move on to a couple of really important things that we're going to be chatting about for the rest of the show here. And that is, the first thing I want to take a look at is Veterans Day. Coming up on November 11th is a Wednesday. Based on what our pre-show conversation, you've got something a little special this year that's obviously a little different, maybe we're used to in the past. Our Veterans Day luncheon, which I always appreciate and support. Unfortunately, due to our restrictions in terms of number of people in rooms and things of that nature, you're not able to do that. But you are still planning something big. Tell us about it.
Yes. So as Paul said, due to COVID, we're probably not going to have the Veterans Day luncheon. So instead, this year we're going to have a short little ceremony, probably 15, 20 minutes at the flagpole on November 11th at 11:11, and we're going to have Veronica and Travis talk about, the history of Veterans Day and what it means to them and why it's important. And then we're going to, as a club, we're going to purchase gift cards for veteran students, and we're going to mail them out to all the veterans. So at least they have, something from the club that, they can use on Veterans Day or whenever they want as a special thank you to them for serving and, everything they've done for our country.
Speaking of the way that you're trying to attempt to give back to our veteran students this time, you've done a lot for veterans in this local area. Can you share with us some of the things that you've done in the past as part of the club to support veterans in this Cumberland-Dauphin County area?
Yeah, so that's a great point. So last year, our former club president, Randy Raymer,
I miss Randy. I was so happy to see him graduate, but I always tell Parker, like, I wish I had you in class so I could fail you, so you'd have to stay around one more time.
Yeah, Randy was great. He was very passionate about things, and one of the things he was passionate about was homeless veterans and veterans addiction. So he did some research in the area, and he found a local organization that helps out homeless veterans and veterans that have addiction. And we actually staged a homeless night. Randy, Ben, Sam, and I. We stayed out overnight. We raised over $1,000 for this organization.
That's amazing.
And we donated everything to them. We sold T-shirts. We donated everything to them. And Randy's still actually working with that organization.
Really?
Yes. I'm not sure in what capacity. There was talks of, joining them like part-time, but I know he definitely volunteers his time there still. So, and they're definitely, a great organization to support. I believe it's JFT Recovery in Lemoyne. So, yeah. Awesome.
And if you're thinking of, I know when we get towards this time of year, beginning of November into December, Thanksgiving, the holidays coming up, one of the things that a lot of people often look for are some local organizations to support around the holidays. Not that you shouldn't support these organizations all year round, but sometimes, maybe that's when it comes to the forefront of our mind. So, again, if that's another organization or a wonderful organization, if you are interested in supporting our veterans, that you can look into and are doing some wonderful things here in Cumberland County.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they have housing, they donate food, they have clothing, they help recovering addicts get off the street. They give them a place to stay. They do it all. So, and it's all nonprofit. So, they're amazing. Yeah, definitely one of those small organizations that you drive by every day and you don't realize what they're doing. And then when you do, it's like, wow, just that was right underneath, we didn't even know about it.
Right.
And now we do, and it's awesome.
That's amazing, and I'm so glad to hear Randy's still working with them.
Yeah.
Well, Travis, I want to ask you, so obviously I'm sure you're getting ready and getting prepared to give the statement on Veterans Day. And without spoilers, can you just share with us what Veterans Day means to you and maybe preview your presentation a little bit for our listeners?
I suppose I can. I just found out about this statement earlier today, so I'm a little caught off guard still, but, spitballing, as it were. Veterans Day, it's important to take time to honor and remember those that, they laid it all on the line. Not to sound stereotypical, but never know if they're coming home when they get sent out. And, everyone can be put in danger, but, veterans get sent to countries live in extremely austere conditions at some point with people a mile away or even less that their sole target is to get rid of you, to eliminate the veterans and the soldiers and service members. So 1 moment of silence, I think, is the minimum we can do at 11/11 to honor the generations of veterans that have given blood, tears, and sweat to this country to keep it safe. Not everyone understands it. It takes a certain kind of person to volunteer to do that. But yeah, I really feel that it's the least you can do is just take a moment of silence to honor those that have fought and died for this country.
Without a doubt. And like I said, I'm honored that my grandfather served his time with the military, and it's always been something that as a family we've always been avid supporters of the military and what they do and support them in any way that we possibly can. I do want to talk about, speaking of this, one of the great things that the AFA Club has done over the past several years is gotten involved with the Toys for Tots initiative. That is going to start, and you're going to do that again this year, and that is going to start first or second week in November, so probably right around the time that this podcast is airing. You will see Toys for Tots bins here on campus, more than likely in ATEC. There might be another location. So can you tell us, first of all, what is the connection? Because maybe, including myself, I'm not totally sure of this, but maybe for our listeners, what is the connection between Toys for Tots and military organizations?
It's actually, Toys for Tots is actually part of the Marines. The Marines are actually in charge of the Toys for Tots. What they do is a lot of the Marines who are in the Marines Reserves, they pick up the toys and deliver it to the children in the local community, because firm believe everybody should have a Christmas. Everyone should have a good Christmas, no matter what conditions.
Of course.
So I'll just piggyback off that. So for the Toys for Tots bin, we actually go to the Marine base in Harrisburg. It's a small facility. And that's where we collect the bins, and that's where we drop off all the toys. They also do like a big drop-off at one of the malls. I think last year it was the East Mall, and the year before it was Capital City. And then they donate the toys to kids in the local community that may not have a Christmas or may not get toys, just so they have something. I think it's a great cause and one that everyone can kind of get behind and support.
Anything particular that they're typically looking for, or not too picky when it comes to what things are going to be donated?
Just it can't be closed and it has to be still wrapped and it can't be opened. But yeah, other than that, it can be anything. Toddler toys, middle school toys, anything. Just in between, not middle school, elementary school. I mean, there's also middle school toys. But,
of course.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, they're not picky about what the toy is as long as it's not opened.
Gotcha. Well, I got to tell you, gentlemen, first of all, it's always my honor. Dan, it's so funny because when you send me an email, and I'm always looking for people who want to be on the show. So anytime you guys in AFA have anything going on, please feel free to reach out. But I always appreciate how enthusiastic you are about coming on the podcast. It's always fun. I do enjoy it very much. And just number one, thank you for not only assisting our veterans, but also being so enthusiastic that you are the advisor of the club. So I just appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. And yeah, thank you for having this podcast. I think it's a great feature. And I mean, how many years have you been doing this now?
I think we started in 2016.
Wow.
And this will be episode 121. Now, we did go on a 6-month hiatus when we were not on campus, and some podcasts decided that they were going to do Zoom and pull the audio from it, but we have a nice studio here, and I was really afraid that it was just not going to sound very good, so we just went on a little hiatus. So we're actually going down, at least this term, to 5 episodes in a term instead of 8, but I still want to keep it going, and I hope that once we are beyond this, I don't even want to say when this is over because I'm afraid it may not be over anytime soon. But when we get to the point where people feel a little bit more comfortable about being in one room together, that we go back to that 8 episodes. So I just appreciate you being on today. I appreciate what you guys did at the club fair. I really appreciate things that you have coming up, including the Veterans Day celebration at 11/11 on November 11th at the flagpole. I'm going to bring my class. We're going to leave class because I have class at 11:20, so at 11 I'm going to bring my class up, so that should be cool. And frankly, I just thank you all. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Parker, for your service. It means the world to all of us. That's why we're safe. And again, to Dan, thank you for sharing your skills and your knowledge with this fine group of people who we are very fortunate to serve here at Central Penn College.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for everything and having the podcast. And Parker, thank you for your service, and Travis as well, and all the veterans out there.
Well, Travis, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day. This wasn't so bad, was it?
No, it wasn't too horrible.
No, see, I have. It's funny because a lot of times when people are on for their first time, they get super nervous, and I trust me, I get it. If you've never been on a podcast, you'd probably be nervous. But seriously, Travis, thank you, and we'd love to have you back sometime talking about things that the AFA are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for your time. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
And the president of the Nightly News, Parker Rose. I love the opportunities that I have with you. I really hope that you're still interested in working with our athletics, even when you're out of here. But I'm really going to miss you, buddy. You're a great man, and the passion that you have for being in the service, for being a volunteer fireman, for all the things you do here on campus. I mean, you're a model student, and it's an honor that I've gotten to work with you over these past couple of years.
Well, thank you for the kind words, Professor Miller, but we still got 8 weeks to go. A lot more podcasts to go on.
I'm sure you're
handful podcasts left.
I'm sure you're counting down the days. All right, well, that's going to do it for another edition of the Nightly News Podcast. Thank you so much to Travis Kauffman, Dan Guerrisi, and Parker Rose. And stay tuned. We'll be right back with the news from our Communications 270 class. But for this episode, that's going to be it, and we'll see you next time. This is Professor Miller signing off.
This is Megan Ream, Director of the Learning Center at Central Penn College, and you're listening to the Nightly News Podcast.
This is Nightly News reporter Jaime Harmon with a news brief. Central Penn College kicked off the NightQuest Combat Hunger initiative on September 29th to help fight hunger in the local surrounding communities such as Harrisburg, York, and Lancaster. Teams created of Central Penn staff and students began collecting monetary donations and non-perishable canned goods in an effort to help 10 local food pantries in the surrounding communities. Students and staff also collected non-perishable food donations at the NightQuest Combat Hummer drive-thru located at the Summerdale campus. Central Penn's Director of Advancement and Program Relations, Curtis Walker, stated, quote, "The event was a success, bringing the college and our community together for a deserving cause. Many community members expressed how great it was to see our students supporting the initiative during these challenging times," end quote. The drive-through event collected over 259 non-perishable food items, as well as $223 in cash donations. Students and staff are encouraged to donate their time to help with their local community. The college is offering its employees the ability to volunteer at locations in their surrounding communities. Monetary donations can be given at givebutter.com/nightquest. For the Nightly News, I'm Jaime Harmon.
This is Sarah Weaver for the Nightly News reporting with a news brief. Are you putting on weight from COVID? Do you feel sluggish and out of energy? Did you know that earlier this year, our very own Dean of Student Engagement, Adrienne Thoman, was hosting online Zumba classes to help get that energy back? Unfortunately, now Adrienne is short on time. She has introduced to all someone new. Jessie Feltenberger is going to be hosting live Pilates classes every Monday at 10:30 a.m. This Pilates class will be around 30 minutes. Jessie is a licensed Pilates instructor and has been training in Pilates since 2015. What is Pilates? Pilates is a physical fitness system with low-impact flexibility, strength, and endurance exercise. Pilates helps with posture, balance, core, alignment, and strength training. In other words, Pilates is a more intense version of yoga that shows results quicker. With the holidays around the corner and times being tough, this may be a great chance to release some stress and get some of that energy back and bring on that holiday happy spirit. For the Nightly News, this is Sarah Weaver signing off.
This is Nightly News reporter Jose Cedeno with the news brief. Coronavirus has provided no shortage of postponed events. However, COVID-19 has not stopped the faculty and engagement committees at Central Penn College from organizing ways to keep their returning students entertained. This past October, Central Penn students enjoyed the return of the CPC film series, showcasing Jordan Peele's 2017 American horror film, Get Out. The free screenings served as a reintroduction to normalcy at the college and a fundraiser for the Night Way. Co-vice president of the Nightly News and inaugural student presenter Leslie Heimball described her preparation for the event as, quote, daunting, end quote. When asked why she decided to present Get Out, Heimball stated, quote, "The movie means a lot to me. To have the opportunity for a school-wide conversation about systemic racism is important. I believe that this generation will be the generation that will no longer tolerate the status quo," end quote. Dean of Student Engagement, Adrienne Thoman, added, quote, "Leslie is an all-star. This stuck out as a great opportunity for a strong student," end quote. The film presentation was moved inside due to inclement weather. However, Thoman expressed enthusiasm in continuing to present outdoor films at the college. Still, there is something to be said about seeing a feature film in a packed theater. That experience of being on a visual ride together has been paused, as notable films like 007's No Time to Die and popular musical West Side Story have been moved to 2021 release dates. In summary, even with potential blockbusters on the horizon, the CPC film series continues to present a casual opportunity for the Central Penn community to gather, analyze, and discuss challenging themes played out within film amid uncertain times. For the Nightly News, I'm Jose Cedeno.
This is Nightly News reporter Leesa Putt with a news brief. 1 in 8 households with children cannot buy enough food for their families, according to the Food Research and Action Center. One local college is making a difference. The Summerdale campus of Central Penn College hosted a food drive on October 17th from 8 a.m. to noon as part of its ongoing NightQuest Combat Hunger initiative. The parking lot at the intersection of Valley Road and B Street was the site of many students, alumni, faculty, and local residents dropping off non-perishable foods and monetary donations. The event was one of many initiatives to help raise funds and collect needed items for local food banks as part of NightQuest's newest campaign for 2020. The event collected 259 non-perishable food items, as well as $223 in cash donations. The successful collection showed the deep connection Central Penn has with its community. According to Curtis Volker, the Philanthropic Initiative Task Force co-chair for Central Penn, many community members expressed how great it was to see students supporting this initiative, especially during these challenging times. After this successful outreach, Volker said, quote, "We look forward to providing more opportunities for Central Penn to engage with and support our community." End quote. With hunger continuing to be a growing concern, Central Penn's charitable initiative this year is making a difference by partnering with 10 local food banks. For more information, visit the NightQuest website, or you can make a monetary donation at givebutter.com/NightQuest. For the Nightly News, I'm Leesa Putt.
Hello, this is Rafael Mateo for the Nightly News. On November 3rd, students at Central Penn College will have the opportunity to elect the Student Government Association of the future, online through Student Central or CPC app. Those who plan on running for officers must have at least a 3.0 GPA, be endorsed by at least 3 faculty or administration members, and have a petition signed by 50 students. The student running for officer must be enrolled in at least 6 credits each of the 2 academic terms preceding the service year. During the year of service, he or she must anticipate being enrolled in 9 credits each time. Nominees must be willing to attend meetings throughout the year and be available and appear at the Summerdale campus as needed to carry out the Student Government Association's business. Finally, the student must not have been subject to disciplinary action by the Judiciary Board of Central Penn during the calendar year preceding the service year. The Student Government Association is the voice for all students on campus, online, or those continuing their education. Current President Brianna Stoltz has briefed on the importance of voting for your future officers, quoting, "This election gives the students the power to pick who they want to be their voice and to vote on which candidate would be able to help them the most." By taking part in the elections in November, you make your voice heard and help a small campus like Central Penn College a better place. If you have any questions regarding the Student Government Association, please reach out to Adrian Tomlin or the Student Government Association's current members, whose contact information you can find in Blackboard in the Get Involved tab. This has been Rafael for the Nightly News.